Russian Energy Minister Nikolai Shulginov declared that all of Russia's sanctions-affected crude oil exports have been effectively redirected to friendly nations, despite a decline in oil and gas production. After Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the West implemented sanctions, including an embargo on Russian oil supplies by sea. At an energy symposium, Shulginov boldly said that they have entirely diverted all impacted shipments without experiencing a drop in sales. Russia will benefit greatly from this, particularly since they are looking for methods to export oil and make money. During a speech at a Moscow energy event, Russian Energy Minister Nikolai Shulginov stated that the nation's oil and gas production is predicted to decline this year. Even while new delivery routes to countries in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and South America have been found to offset the loss of crude exports owing to Western sanctions, the reduction in sales volumes cannot be prevented. Nevertheless, Russian oil companies have been able to lessen some of the effects thanks to their attempts to enter into agreements with new clients and friendly governments. Russia describes governments as friendly if they haven't ratified UN sanctions against them. Consideration is also given to the European oil embargo and price cap limitations on Russian oil and oil products that were put in place by the G7 group of major economies following Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year. China and India were Shulginov's two main buyers of Russian oil last year. Supply to India was provided in a quantity that was 22 times greater than the year before. Shulginov omitted to address the potential impact on the circumstances of Russia's planned daily oil production cut of 500,000 barrels. Alexander Novak, the Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, reiterated that the nation will keep cutting its oil production from February to June. They are getting close to their target, but since the government has classified updates, there are no official numbers. On the other hand, according to market data provider Statista, Russian crude output in January was roughly 9.8 million barrels per day, unchanged from the previous month. The Moscow business daily Vedomosti stated that, in comparison to the same period in 2023, gas production decreased by over 10% in January and February, producing slightly over 119 billion cubic meters. Mikhail Krudikin, a partner at Rusenergy in Moscow, said that Russian oil companies had discovered new markets in distant countries. However, they are currently left with few options for getting better pricing when selling their oil in different places. Additionally, Krudikin believes that China and India, who are essential to the country's oil industry, could become even more powerful than they currently are. According to Reuters, Novak has made no secret of his displeasure with the price cut on Russia's main oil export, Urals blend crude. In order to cover the higher expenses of shipping and insurance, new customers are demanding this reduction. Novak is still confident that when freight rates decline, this discount will eventually go down. Regrettably, ship-to-ship oil transfers from smaller Russian oil cargoes to larger tankers headed for Asia and Africa have become more difficult due to recent actions taken by Spain. Beginning in the middle of February, owners of oil tankers wishing to conduct offshore transfers along the Atlantic and Mediterranean coasts of Spain will require authorization from the closest Spanish port, even if the transfers take place outside of Spanish territorial seas. Following the interceptions of several oil tankers suspected of producing oil spills during ship-to-ship transfers in the Mediterranean Sea near Barcelona and the Canary Islands, Spanish authorities initiated this action. For this reason, the authorities wish to monitor these operations more closely in order to prevent any more harm to the environment. In addition, Russia intends to eliminate Gazprom's export control in order to triple its LNG output. The development of Russia's isolated northern gas deposits is something that the country's officials wish to promote. By enabling local companies to export liquefied natural gas without going via Gazprom, they are doing this. Operators of gas reserves north of the 67th parallel will no longer be required to export their LNG through Gazprom, according to proposed changes to the Russian law on gas exports. Currently, Gazprom has the exclusive right to handle Russian gas supplies. The government claims that it is impractical to develop pipelines for greenfield gas projects in the Arctic because the locations are too far away from the nation's trunkline network. Building pipelines in Russia's far-flung Arctic regions is costly, and the lack of inhabitants there makes the process more challenging. Furthermore, last year's decision by Gazprom to cut back on pipeline gas supply to Europe further restricted export possibilities. Thus, the government believes that the most feasible approach to commercialize the Arctic's gas deposits is through LNG. The suggested modifications won't have an impact on Novatek's ongoing projects, such as Yamal LNG and Arctic LNG 2 and 1. According to an executive with extensive knowledge of the company's LNG initiatives. The projects are already authorized to export LNG. Rather, the modifications will only be applicable to new initiatives involving state-owned businesses such as Gazprom. Therefore, Novatek need not be concerned about how these revisions may affect its ongoing business activities. Furthermore, changes have been proposed by the Russian government that would allow LNG exports from gas development projects involving Gazprom and other Russian businesses. This would only be permitted, though, if the government retained direct or indirect ownership of these businesses in an amount equal to or more than 50%. According to Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin, the administration wants to draw capital for new initiatives that will contribute to raising the nation's annual LNG production to almost 100 million tons by 2030. Only two significant LNG export projects are run by Russia, Sakhalin-2 and Yamal LNG, which are headed by Gazprom and Novatek, respectively. Additionally, these businesses own shares in the smaller Baltic Sea LNG facilities at Vysotsk and Portovaya. It appears that this spring, Russia will ship less LNG from Sakhalin-2 to Japan and other Asian countries. This is due to the fact that the facility located south of Sakhalin Island will be undergoing some significant repairs. A recent job offering states that maintenance is scheduled to take place from February 13 to April 23. Sakhalinskaya Energia, the corporation that operates the plant, has not yet verified this information. Nevertheless, a few observers of Sakhalin speculate that the maintenance work may take longer. This is due to the fact that Russian businesses will have to take the position of foreign service providers and contractors who were forced to leave last year due to international sanctions. Even though Sakhalin-2's turnaround time in 2022 was only 35 days, 1.1 million tons of LNG were lost. Sakhalin-2 generated 11.5 million tons of LNG in 2023 despite having its assets seized by force. 60% of that amount was transported to Japan, thanks to long-term contracts with the country's energy providers. Spot LNG is essentially the only alternative available in the global LNG competition to replace Sakhalin-2, according to Masahiko Hosokawa, a business professor at Meisei University in Tokyo. In December, Oman LNG and three Japanese corporations, JERA, Mitsui, and Itochu, inked long-term contracts for the production of electricity. In the meantime, US-based Venture Global and the nation's oil and gas explorer, INPEX, have announced a 20-year agreement. The official news agency ONA published information on these agreements. Japanese businesses are looking to secure their LNG supplies from the US and the Middle East as Europe's demand for the gas grows. There's no doubt that this will make European nations more competitive for available freight. According to Reuters, European Union Energy Commissioner Kadri Simpson counseled EU nations and businesses against signing new contracts for Russian LNG during a conference of legislators. When present contracts with Moscow expire, Simpson urged everyone to stop buying Russian LNG and to avoid entering into new agreements. The objective is to lessen the EU's reliance on Russia and provide some comfort to Middle Eastern and US gas suppliers with whom Europe is attempting to negotiate agreements. What are your thoughts on Russia's new oil and gas exports and its new LNG deals? Let me know down below. If you want to continue to learn about business investing and financial education, we have got this video waiting on the screen for you to check out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.